Hello and welcome to TRT World. In this week's Across the Balkans, we look at Kosovo's unhealed wounds, 27 years after the war ended. What happens when those responsible for war crimes stay silent while the ground itself begins to speak? I'm Nadja Muftic, and this is Across the Balkans. Nearly 3 decades after the Kosovo War, key questions about security and territory remain unresolved, from the future of NATO's peacekeeping mission to tensions with Serbia over the Ibar River and the discovery of new mass graves. But for families of those still missing, one question is far more urgent. What happened to their loved ones?
Hoping to find the remains of loved ones who have died during a conflict is never easy, especially if it starts with the discovery of a suspected mass grave. Nearly 30 years after his father went missing during the Kosovo War, Erblin Ademi is at one of the recently discovered mass graves near Kaludar I Vogel village. Human remains were found there, but forensic identification is still ongoing. Erblin was just 9 when his father Adem Ademi, a surgeon, disappeared along with 22 other intellectuals months before the war ended.
Kur kemi dëgjuar për fillim të gërmimeve, ka qenë disi një ndjenjë e përzije, ndjenjë e shpresës dhe ndjenjë e dhimbjes. Pavarësisht se sa vite kalojnë, ndjenja e dhimbjes do të ekzistojë gjithmonë për një antar të familjes, sidomos për prindin. Për të njëjtën kohë gjithmonë ka qenë një ndjenjë shpresje, një ndjenjë që më në fund po zbulohet e vërteta, më në fund po gjenden grupi prindësit të antarëve dhe më në fund si çdo njeri që është e drejtë humane që ta ketë një varg ku mund t'i vizitosh, ku mund t'i nderosh, ku mund t'i kujtosh, po I vije fundi. Andaj po shpresojmë shumë që ky do të jetë fundi, pavarësisht kohës se sa do të zgjatë gjithë procesi, ne do të presim e thash me durim deri në përfundimin e gjitha rezultateve dhe t'i nderojmë ashtu siç e kanë merituar.
The 1998 to 1999 war between ethnic Albanians seeking independence and Serbian armed forces killed more than 10,000 people and displaced more than 1 million. Forensic teams have recovered the remains of thousands of victims from grave sites, but more than 1,600 people remain missing. Kosovo police arrested 3 Kosovo Serbs on suspicion of war crimes, directly linked to the grave in Kaludar. The discovery has since expanded into a wider investigation across multiple nearby burial sites.
These are the remains of 23 Albanians who have been violently abducted, executed, and then their bodies were buried in an attempt to hide the horrendous crime committed by Serbian forces in the spring of 1999. I call upon international community, in particular EU, UK and US, to make pressure on Belgrade in order to open the archives of Yugoslav army.
One move by the international community concerns the status of its peacekeeping force in Kosovo, known as KFOR. In June, NATO announced it will gradually reduce the number of its troops over the next year due to an improvement in the security situation. KFOR has been deployed since 1999 under a U.S. mandate. Kosovo and Serbia remain deadlocked over Kosovo's independence. Kosovo's acting president has expressed serious concern over Belgrade's potential plan to change the course of the Ibar River. The Ibar River originates outside Serbia, enters Kosovo, and then flows back into Serbia downstream from Mitrovica. In the World Bank's own terminology, central Kosovo, including the capital, is almost entirely dependent on this canal for its water needs. Control over that water means control over its population. Serbia maintains that it was to address the waterways in what it describes as its territory in accordance with its domestic law. Alongside these continuing disputes is an unresolved legacy of the war for people like Erblin. They are searching for their loved ones, hoping that a painful chapter in their lives can finally be brought to a close.
Joining me now is national security expert Drizan Shala. We'll discuss Kosovo's unresolved war legacy, newly discovered mass graves, and the unanswered questions surrounding those still missing. We'll also look at security tensions with Serbia and what these developments mean for Kosovo today. Drizan, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for the calling, for the invitation. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be part of your mission and the TRT World.
Thank you so much. What does the discovery of mass graves tell us about Serbia's approach to the crimes committed in Kosovo in 1998 and 1999?
First of all, we need to understand and to read the geography before we read the politicians. The monument stands at the plateau in the front of the elementary school in Rashk, the Rudina Square, where 52 bodies of Kosovo Albanians aged 14 to 87 were recovered between 2013 and 2014 in the same municipality. The brigade being honored operating in Drenica, where humanitarian law sent account roughly 1,400 civilians killed in its zone of operation across the documented sites, and where the trucks that carried bodies to the Bajtanica began running in the second week of April 1999. By finding the Đorđević judgment, so the contrast, your description is tighter than the contrast. The unit and the graves share the same address. What it tells us is that Serbia has two simultaneous policies toward the same set of facts. The ground is producing the bodies at the Kaludra, Evogel or Mala Kaludra, or the small Kaludra is in the village in the northern part of Kosovo. The remains began coming up on the first day of digging, and the state is producing the counter-narrative in the stone, with the Serbian ministry declare that the men, freedom fighters and the war heroes, not war criminals. Both are answers to the same questions. One is forensics and one is ceremonial. Belgrade has decided that the ceremonial answer is the official one.
If information about the locations of mass graves existed for years, why did it take almost 3 decades for excavations to resume at some of these sites? And what does it mean that revealing information about the whereabouts of missing people can lead to criminal proceedings, while there are no corresponding proceedings for the crimes themselves?
The delay was never because there was not enough information. Natasha Kandic took the first witness statement about Kaludra in 2003. By 2010, the War Crimes Procedure Office in Belgrade already had the information about the transfer of the bodies to Rudnica. Serbia's own working groups had found more than 700 bodies in the Bajtanica in 2001. The locations were known to the institutions responsible for taking action. What was missing for almost 3 decades was not the information, but the decision to act. When this lack of action continues for many years under different officials and governments, the lack of action itself became a decision. Now look at the result of the legal proceeding. For the killing, no one has been persecuted. For organizing hiding of the bodies, no an operation confirmed by the International Court, no one has been persecuted. Only if we can go back, now we can say that for the changes, for the information during these past days, that somebody have give the information was arrested from the Serbian authority on the state secret charge. That charge is perhaps the clearest statement that has met on this issue in years. The procedure someone for revealing the location of the grave, the state must say that the location is secret, but that Serbia has the right to keep it secret, and that revealing is during a war crime investigation harms the state. On the other words, what we can say that the change itself shows that the issue of hiding the truth about the grave is still being threatened as a state policy. Belgrade is not being prosecuted for it, it's prosecuting the people who interrupt it. That means people who give the information to the local authority in Kosovo, they are now persecuted from the states of the Belgrade. That shows the mentality, the doctrine, and the philosophy of the state of Serbia.
Yeah, does Serbia's treatment of the victims and the evidence today suggest a continuity in state policy from the Kosovo War to the present?
The two facts must be seen together because each helps explain the other. In 2015, the Serbian defense minister at the time and acting minister, Bratislav Gašić, declassified the entire chief of the former 37 Brigade Command as a secret. In 2024, Kosovo officially requested access to this archive under the Declaration of the Missing Persons Agreement in Brussels in May 2024. Kosovo repeated the request in June 2026. Then the Joint Commission met access to the archive one of its two main priorities. The head of Kosovo Missing Person Unit called this a test of Serbia's readiness to cooperate. The archive is still closed, but the monument was building anyway. In considering the full record of the unit, 2 times procedure cleared its former commander responsibility. One of Schu's decision comes only 48 hours after the publishing of the dossier. The entire archive was classified as a secret. The court used a defamation judgment against the organization that document the unit's record. The unit received 2 state decorations. A monument was built on its honor, yet there have been zero indication against them, any members of any of these sites. So what we can say, the memory policy deals with this past. What is happening here also affects the future. The monument shows the vision of the history that the state wants people to remember. A closed archive shows the vision of the history that the state does not want people to know or to make the examination. Building this monument with keeping the archive closed means putting the preferred story in the place before the documentation can be seen. The monument is made of the bronze, the archive is made by the paper, but the bronze is designed to last longer than the paper. That is the philosophy, to move everything, to disclose all evidence that the state of Serbia have met during the war crime in the Kosovo during the 1999s.
Does the planned reduction of KFOR forces change the balance of power between Serbia and Kosovo? And could Belgrade interpret that reduction as an opportunity to test the limits of what it can do?
Here I want to point the document where we published on the Kosovo Dispatch, because it gives the clear answer with specific date. If you can remember, in 1997, the current Serbian president wrote down his strategy view. Wait until the policeman leaves. At that time, he had no responsibility for putting this strategy into the practice. Today, he leaves the office of the more than 10 years of building the military capability needed for the other part of that strategy. At Janila last month, he compared the Serbian army with the former Yugoslavian army, UNA. He claimed that Serbian is now many times stronger at Mirkonic's Grad. He said that times and peace are working in Serbia's favor. He also made it clear that they mean this in the military sense. So the capability part of 1997 strategy has now been publicly present as a complete by its own author. The only open question in that strategy is the deputy of the policeman. So yes, reducing KFOR would create a risk, but we must be precise about how the risk works. Belgrade does not need to believe that any opportunity is coming. For years, it has agreed that KFOR is the only legitimate army force in Kosovo. Aleksandar Mojsilović repeated this position during his meeting with the KFOR commander in Kosovo. This statement is not simply respect for KFOR, it also denies the legitimacy of Kosovo's own security institutions, while keeping at position ready for the monument when the force of Belgrade recognized beginning to reduce its presence. A KFOR reduction managed together with the strong Kosovo security posture and the clear island guarantee is the only situation. But KFOR reducting viewing together with the 1997 document is something different. It becomes another attempt on the checklist. The danger is not that Belgrade misunderstands the withdrawal. The danger is that Belgrade understands it exactly as the strategy description itself.
Drizan, Alexander Vucic also said that Serbia has various reasons to change the course of the Ibar River and that it would then see how the Albanians respond. How seriously should such a statement be taken?
If we take the sentence exactly as it was said, Serbia's president said that engineering had already been called, that there were various reasons to change the flow of the Ibar River. He said that let us see how the Albanians react. The next day in Priopolje, he said that it was a threat to anyone. But the denial and the threat are part of the same statement. Someone announcing a normal water project does not usually add a sentence about watching how many nations react. The sentence is part of the project. The three things make it more than simple political reaction. First of all, the history part. The idea of changing the river flow first approached in December 2024, only days after attack of the Iber Lipens channel in Vrag, which Kosovo attribute to the Belgrade. What was present 2 years ago, a possible deniable sabotage, is now being present openly by the Serbian president as a constitutional option. Second, dependency. According to the World Bank's own project description, Central Kosovo, included Pristina, depend almost entirely on this channel. Third, the law. Serbia joined the UNESCO Water Convention in 2010 and accept the dispute resolution mechanism, including the possible going of the International Court of Justice. Tirana refused to this threat. 3 Serbian officials responded, but no one of them mentioned the threat of Tirana. A state that is confident about the legal position normally point to the law and the support of the position. A state that is testing reaction, change the subject. So whatever Serbian can actually divide the river is almost beside the point. The engineering may never move a single cubic meter of water. The real objective was to test the reaction. It was to deliberately to change the mentality, and the answer to that test are now being calculated in Belgrade.
What does the international community need to understand more seriously today than it did before 1999 war? Is there a pattern in the events of July and August 2026 showing that Serbia is merely engaging in a verbal confrontation with Kosovo, or is it laying the groundwork for the concrete shift in the balance of power?
The 3 options in your question are usually present as a separative choice, but in the public record, they look more like a consequence. First, phrase the normal status, so that no final agreement can remove Serbia's claim. Second, weaken security guarantees, reduce KFOR presence, limit what remains of EULEX, and weakening confidence in the Western response. This makes the enforcement system weak. Third, build the military capability while keeping all grievances alive. Then, if the balance changes, the political justification is already prepared. The Serbian president said that the key sentence himself is he will forward address. Serbia will protect its people and it will not look for any excuse. Now, compare the statement with the way its people, we redefined during the same week, also without qualification, with borders, description as not obstacles. Taken together, this become a pledge to protect people across the territory for neighborhood states. I'm not claiming to know what is inside the minds of Serbian leaders. I'm saying that the public record is enough to identify the pattern. The pattern used by Moscow was to present an imaginary threat against its people, building military power while denying aggressive intention, and then present military action as a rescue mission when they know other options superly remain. That pattern is now being built step by step in Belgrade, and each step has a date. The status quo is not necessary for Belgrade's final objectives. The status quo may simply be Belgrade's waiting room. What's European now is still the control of the day. So everything is believed on behalf of NATO, the European politicians, how they can move forward to integrate the Western Balkan states in the family of EU states.
Drizan Shala, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
We continue to look at the war in Kosovo in the late 1990s, this time through the lens of film. A new movie about a teenage girl coming of age during the war has been selected as Kosovo's entry for the 2027 Oscars in the Best International Feature Film category. It is the second feature film by Kosovo director Blerta Basholi and a story that hits close to home. Adem Amunu has more.
You said a prayer and I betrayed you with a kiss. You never realized it.
This is a scene reminiscent of typical teenage girlhood, but it's part of a film that sheds light on one of Kosovo's darkest chapters. Dua is the story of a young girl who navigates adolescence in the shadow of the country's war in the late 1990s. It's the second feature-length film from director Blerta Basholi.
I would like the teenagers to know what we've been through, but mostly also to know that people in conflict are like any other people. It's not that even today, like teenagers who are in conflict, that doesn't mean that they don't have dreams, that they don't listen to music, that they don't fall in love, because war is not just about guns and bombs. War is also trying every day to feel normal and live normally. And that was for me very important to show that all the people in conflict are still the same as us, who are not in conflict today, and they still want to live and dream and enjoy their lives.
The Kosovo War emerged from deep-rooted ethnic tensions between ethnic Serbs and Albanians. It was one of the last explosions of violence in the Yugoslav wars, after the Socialist Federal Republic collapsed in the early 1990s. In response, NATO intervened in 1999, resulting in a bombing campaign against Serbia and the launch of a peacekeeping presence in Kosovo. Kosovo would later declare independence in 2008, a move that Serbia is yet to recognize.
Fai to, Ondra, adesso stojmë të prit. Hajtë së bonome me prit pak. Së bonome po të gjithë po vonohesh. Nan që ki vesh për fëmijë? Nan. E dita, ma icën e ki vesh.
I always felt small being Albanian in Kosovo, living during the occupation. Although we were a majority, we always felt smaller because we were always like either required to speak in Serbian, or like we didn't have schools, or you had the school but you didn't have the nice cabinets because the Serbian kids took the part of the school where these like physics and biology cabinets were. So you always felt like you're from lower class, and in a way I always thought that okay, I'm never gonna be able to like do something or go somewhere or travel, because we couldn't travel, or going to a concert. When somebody went to a concert, we all gathered around that person to ask them how was it, because I have never been to a concert before the war.
Basholi's first feature film, Hive, which made the Oscars shortlist in 2022, tells the true story of Fahriye Hoti, whose husband goes missing during the Kosovo War. She faces intense grief, financial difficulties, and heavy backlash when she rallies other widows to start a localized agricultural business.
Ndër vite Unë si nuse në vitet e 90 jo martu në fshat Krushe, ka qenë një fshat pasor, kanë qenë njerëz punëtor, të afër, dashur. 99-ën çdo send u shkatru, erdhën Serb, plaçkitën, vrajtën njerëz, dëgjën shtëpi, e lanë shumë fëmijë pa prind dhe ndryshoi gjendja në fshatin ton 100%. Mu si familje me vrajtën burrin, sot figuron i zhdukun, 3 antarë të familjes ngusht, 11 familjar të dytë të gjallarve, ndërsa 60 sa kryesisht familjes Hoti. Dhe ndryshoi gjendja në fshat, mbetëm dveja.
By 2010, Hoti had registered the agriculture cooperative Krusha, employing women who prepare and sell more than 60 different products to support their families and educate their children. Basholi is hoping that she too will go all the way with her latest creative offering.
And sometimes when you're making things that are very personal, it's easy for some things, but it's very difficult because you don't know, are you the only one attached to it that much, or are the audiences going to relate and connect to it? So having Dua again, Kosovo's candidate for Oscars, it's a great honor, it's a great pleasure, and let's see, now we need to do the campaign and work hard for it.
Whether Dua makes it to the Oscars shortlist or not, for Basholi, the true win will come through ensuring that the hopes and experiences of her community are seen and heard. Adam Aminu, Across the Balkans.
Thank you for watching Across the Balkans. You can follow our stories on social media and TRT World's YouTube channel. That is all from the team this week. I'm Nadja Muftic, and we hope to see you next time.